Hello, I'm Jonathan here at Martin Lynch & Sons, and welcome to this week's Something for the Weekend video. This week we have a look at what we've got on our use shelves, and then we're going to go back a few days to when I was at home and we did a video on the IC-705 and D-Star and how to set it up. So that's coming up a little bit later in this video. But first, we're in the showroom. Let's have a look at what we've got on the new shelves. And let's start over here in this general corner. Let's talk about a 7300 first. So of course, 7300, it needs no introductions. HF 6 and 4 meters. 100 watts out on HF and 6, 50 watts out on 4. Now this particular one has the PTRX 7300 board already fitted. So if you don't know what the PTRX board is, it enables you to have an RF output from your 7300 to plug into an SDR receiver, such as the SDR Play or maybe a Funky. I'll just move those bits off the top. This one unfortunately doesn't have a box, hence these bits are just sat on the top. So we do have, that's the radio itself. With it, we have the manual on CD, which is how they're provided now. We also have, of course, power cable and the HM219 microphone, which is a really nice microphone that you get in the box with the 7300. So that one's that $9.49 for that one. So a little bit more because it has got that PTRX board fitted. That would be £190 on its own. It's included because it's already fitted on that one. Also quickly talk about that Z817 just sat there. Of course, this is LDG's automatic QRP tuner designed for the FT-817 and the FT-818. This is boxed, as you can see, with the interface cable in there for just £99. You're saving yourself about 30 or so pounds off a brand new one. I'll just talk very quickly about that TS-480SAT just sat there. So the TS-480SAT, and we'll talk about an HX later, but the SAT, the 100 watt model with the ATU, as you can see, it's sat on the box, you know the box is with it, and it's in a very good condition as well. £699 gets you the HF and 6 meter 100 watt mobile from Kenwood. Very quickly, a Whistler scanner there, WS1065. I would just mention it in passing, $229. If you're into your scanners and communication receiver, you'll know about Whistler's quality and their fantastic receive ability as well. And just sat next to it is the FTDX1200, which is Yaesu's. It's their sort of, I described it well in past, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it's that sort of, if you want a base station that feels like a base station, has the presence of the base station, but doesn't cost the earth. £849 gets you that one. As far as I'm aware, it is boxed and complete. Yes, it is. So supplied with mic manual and DC cable. Now up here on the higher shelf, we've got a Sotabeams Wolfwave. We don't see these very often. I think this is only the second one that we've ever seen. This is their advanced audio processor, I think they call it. So what this does is it has a number of functionalities in terms of things like DSP for audio, and also quite a handy feature as well is a CW decoder. So maybe if obviously very portable, very lightweight as you'd expect from Sotabeams. It's a very lightweight plastic case, but still feels sturdy. And if you're going to take it up, take a small portable radio and maybe a CW isn't quite up to speed, that's nice and handy with that CW feature built in. So next to it is an IC-70100. This is, of course, Icom's HF 6, 4, 2 and 70 mobile, I suppose, really, but there's no reason you couldn't use it in the shack if you wanted to. If you're limited on space, you could hide the main body of the radio underneath the desk with a tuner, maybe an LDG IT-100, for instance, and just have the main front panel up on the desk with the microphone plugged into it. This one is at £799. It does come with its box, the mic, the manual and the packing, as you would expect. And the nice thing with the 7100, as I say, 4 meters as well. So you get 100 watts out on HF and 6, and then 50 watts out on 4, 2 and 70, and D-Star as well on it. We mentioned a Z817 earlier, there's a radio to go with it, the FT-818. So this, of course, Yaesu's successor to the very popular FT-817 and the 817ND. 6 watts out, the TCXO high stability crystal as standard, and again you can also get the optional SSB or the optional CW filters, which really help with the help particularly on a very busy band. Boxed, and this one is only a couple of months old, I'll be honest with you, for £599. We'll move up. We've got another IC-70300 just set up there. This one doesn't have the PTRX board fitted as the other one does, but it does, as you can see, have the side panels fitted. Now these are our own side panels that you may have seen on our website. If you just search side panel on the website, if you want to set for your 7300 or your FT-8900A, we do them for both. Nice protection. If you're going to take the radio portable, if it's going to be something that you take in the field with you, really does help. Gives an added level of protection rather that you just don't get from the radio on its own. £899 and that one is boxed with the mic manual and of course the DC cable. We'll move along. On the top shelf we've got an FTDX101 MP. Now, so of course this is the 200 watt model from Yaesu, their flagship, rated #1 as per Sherwood Engineering. Again, this one boxed and complete in an absolutely lovely condition. Not all that old, this one, 3899. So a good saving over new. You're going to save yourself about £400 or £500 off what they are brand new. Next to it, just sat next to it, is a BHI EQ20 DSP. So if you're someone that suffers a lot of QRM or even QRN, and you need to knock out a bit of interference, then nothing better than the BHIs. This is the parametric equalizer with the DSP technology that BHI has worked on for many years. This one doesn't have the Bluetooth, but if you're going to plug in, it's absolutely great, and you can also plug a set of headphones in the front. Yours for just £199, supplied with the DC cable. What else? There's so much stuff at the moment. We've got another TS-480SAT just sat there at $649, slightly cheaper than the other one. The only reason for that is the box is a bit more battered up, but there is a box. Of course, it does have the mic DC cable and manual as well. And then on the bottom shelf, let's mention these two big boys, the FTDX101D. Now this one has the VCT-101 fitted on the sub VFO. So you get a VCT-101, the sort of microtune filter if you want, on the main VFO as standard. This one has it fitted on the sub VFO. The sub VFO has one as standard on the MP model, just in case you're wondering. So this is a very highly spec'd one for £3,200, just under £3,199. Again, box, mic, manual, DC cable, as you would expect. And just sat next to it is the Icom IC-705. Now this is Icom's 200 watt HF and 6 meter base station. Of course, it's supplied in a very good condition. Yours, and that, I don't know who did that price label because that is completely wrong. Yours for just £2,999, so just under £3,000. So, and that is a very good price for a 7700, if I'm completely honest with you. As you can see, it's in a lovely condition. A few minor scratches that you may be able to see on the camera, but to be honest, that front panel where you're actually going to be spending most of your time looking is absolutely perfect, and it is double box. If you've ever seen a shipping box for a 7700, they are massive, which is currently upstairs, making sure that well, we wouldn't have room for it down here, so we've left it upstairs, but the radio itself in very good condition. Let's move along. We've got an Alinco DX-R8E, which is Alinco's HF communications receiver, in the same chassis as a number of their transceivers, and you can, what's nice with these is you can actually remote the head, so that front panel does come off and you can have that located. Maybe I think it's designed if you wanted to put it in a sort of a vehicle, in a car or a truck, you could do quite easily and just have sort of that front panel up the front. But obviously, as normal, it would, or standard, it would be on the radio. Yours for just £399, fully boxed. We'll talk very briefly about an FT-857D just sat there. So this one is in a very good condition. No major marks or scratches or anything like that on it. And if you have ever used an 857, you know how good they are. You may know that I run one in my own car with the ATAS. So if you want to go HF mobile, an 857 and an ATAS 120A, the absolute perfect pairing. This one doesn't have the box, but as you see next to it is supplied with the microphone, the DC cable and the manual for just £649. You can't get them new anymore, so used prices are starting to creep up on them slightly, but it's a very good price at £649 for an 857. The D means it does have the DSP. Moving round to the right, we've got a couple more 480 SATs. We're going to brush over them because I want to talk about this, a 480HX. So you're going to ask what's the difference? Well, the difference, the 480 SAT 100 watts and has an ATU inbuilt. The HX, 200 watts, have a no ATU. So they've used the space they would have used for the ATU for an extra PA module. And unusually on the for a 200 watt radio, or unusually for a mobile radio of this kind, it has 2 DC inputs. So you do have to feed it 2 lots of 12 volts with independent power cables. Otherwise you will only get 100 watts out of it. You need a second power supply or a second battery maybe in order to get volts onto the second PA for it to produce 200 watts. But by far the cheapest way of getting 200 watts, £949, boxed with mic, manual, DC cable, etc. For just $949. That is by far the cheapest way of getting onto getting in a radio that's got 200 watts on it. Just down here, JRC NRD-525G. This is one of JRC's legendary communications receivers. This one is in very good condition, but I'm just going to pull it out very slightly for you, Henry, because there's a slight mark. I want to bring just your attention on the top. It looks like it's a little bit of rust or something on the top, but it'd be remiss of me not to bring it to attention to see some small scratches. It looks like something has been sat on top of it. But otherwise, it's in a very good condition. The front panel certainly is in a lovely condition, and it's 349, supplied with, of course, a power cable. And there's one of the JRC speakers as well at £129. Lovely audio you get out of the JRC speakers. Can highly recommend them. That would look absolutely perfect sat next to that the NRD-525G. Would be a lovely little pairing. Moving on, a couple more things I want to mention. A Yaesu power supply, the FT-8900. Now you may know that, or you may think that looks quite familiar. Well, it is, because Diamond actually made these for Yaesu. Diamond sell it as the GSV-3000. Yaesu sold it as the FT-1030A. It's a 25 amp continuous power supply, proper linear power supply. So it's got a nice heavy transformer in there. No need to worry about any interference RF wise. For £169, that is a very, very good power supply. And if you want a heavy transformer, that's exactly what you want to be going for. A few final things. TS590SG just sat up there, fully boxed and complete, with mic, manual, DC cable. 1099 gets you that. The 590SG, as you may know, I've currently got one sat in my shack alongside my 7300, and I have to say, out of the two of them, the 590 does sound a heck of a lot nicer. It's a nice, really nice receive audio you get out of a 590. And for 1099, if you're fairly new to the hobby, you're looking to spend around that kind of money, you can't go wrong with a second-hand 590 SG. Very easy to operate. I'm sure I've said before that when we're doing our training here on site, which of course at the moment is gone by the wayside, we do use 590 SGs for the practical activities on the foundation course, because they are very easy to drive and very easy to use. And they are one of Steve's favourite radios in that regard. And finally, I wanted to talk about Yaesu FT-8900, sorry, their quad-band mobile, 50 watts out on 10.6.2, 35 watts out on 70 SEMS, and with full crossband repeat and actually full duplex as well. If you're interested in working with FM satellites, 8900 could be the answer. That's on the website at the moment. It's priced at just $249, which for a quad band mobile radio is very good. Also new in at the moment, not second hand, but new. I'll mention just quickly that TYT TX9800. So you may know the FT-8900 has been discontinued. So TYT have come out with this, which is their sort of quad band version of it. If you want, again, 50 watts out on 10, 6, 2 and 70, and many of the same functions that we would have loved to see Yaesu continue with the 8900, should they have been able to. Right, so that's it for used. Of course, you can see all of the used items which we update on a daily basis online at hamradio.co.uk and click on used. But for now, we're going to go back a few days when I was at home with a video on how to set up D-Star on the IC-705. Don't worry, I know I'm back in my Shackstroke studio. We're not back in lockdown, don't worry about that. But I just want to have a quick look at D-Star on specifically in this case the IC-705, but you can also use the principles of this on other Icom D-Star radios, specifically things like the IC-700, the IC-10100, ID-5100, and the ID-51 E or E plus, or even the E plus 2. This would also apply when it comes out to the ID-52 as well, but as of when we did this, that's not out yet. So it's going to be in a few stages of this. We're going to first look at the software for, in this case, the i705, the programming software from Icom, and then we'll have a quick look at the radio. And I'm going to do this in context of using it with a hotspot, although, again, everything I'm going to say here does apply if you're using either a local simplex node or indeed an actual repeater. So let's hop in to the software. So the first thing to remember when you want to play with D-Star is that you need to be registered to use the network. Now, the easiest way to do this is to contact your local repeater keeper. However, if you're nowhere near a repeater, or you're getting no reply out of your repeater keeper, then you can go directly to Icom UK and they can register you there on their own repeater that they have in Herne Bay. So all you need to do if you want to go down that route is to email them on GB7IC, that's Golf Bravo 7 India Charlie, at icomuk.co.uk, and they need your following information. So you need your name, your call sign, your postcode, and your email address, as you can see there. And then you'll be able to get on to the D-Star network. And that is vital. Whether you plan to use a repeater or not, you do need to be registered on the D-Star network. Otherwise, your transmissions just won't go anywhere. Once you've got that in hand, you want to start programming up your radio. And say, in this case, we're going to use the 705. So you want to go to the Icom Japan website, which is icomjapan.com. And we're going to make sure we're into the global section. Otherwise, the whole page will be in Japanese. But once we're here, we're going to go to support and then firmware and software. If I can get it, there you go. Firmware and software. And what we're going to look for is we're going to look for the programming software for the IC705. So the easiest thing to do here is to type in IC705. Click on search, and we get a few options. So we get the repeater list GPS and data. We might come back to that in a minute. We've got firmware, USB driver, programming software. That's the one we're going to download in a minute. USB driver, firmware, and also another USB driver there as well. So that particular list there, that repeater list GPS and data, that's the one that would have been shipped in your radio when you got it. But we're going to today download the CS705 software. Now, if you're using a different radio, if you're following this, but maybe you've got an ID-5100 or an ID-51, you're going to want to download the CS51 software, for instance, for the handheld. Do note that for some radios, things like the IC-7100, you won't be able to download the software. It is a paid-for software, so you might have to talk to us about purchasing a copy of the software. But we're going to do this. We're going to just click through that, click on agree, and hit download. Now, I've already done that and installed it, and installing it is, as you would expect, a very simple process. Once you've launched the software, it will look broadly like this. Now, if you don't download the file from the software, what you might want to do is to download a copy of your programming file from the radio onto an SD card. Now, that's what I've done in this case. We've programmed our 705 up a little differently to how you normally get them from Icom. So I've taken a copy of what's in the radio and loaded it into the SD card, and that's the one I've got here. So where you really want to navigate, and this is where we're going to really focus on, is under the digital section and under the repeater list. Now, as you can see in our particular radio, we've got UK simplex call, we've got UK digital voice repeaters, we've got UK digital voice nodes, and we've also got UK FM repeaters, as well as some stuff for Europe, Eastern, Northern, and Southern Europe as well. Now, there's almost no limit as to what you put in the radio, and there's some very good websites where you can download data pre-populated for your radio. You can look at D-Star info and D-Star users. Have a Google of those, you'll find those particular websites. And quite often you can download a CSV file for you to load into your software. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new hotspot. So I've got a Zoom spot running in the background, and I need to add it into this IC-705. So what I'm going to do is I'm firstly going to just name this group 8 here, and I'm going to name that hotspot. Very simple. I don't know, be able to find that later. So, and then in this right hand thing, we're going to change this here. So first thing, well, we're going to make it a DV repeater. And there's a reason for that, because you could also see that DV simplex is another option. And although the hotspot operates on the same frequency, for now, we're going to leave it as DV repeater. Name, well, that's simple. I'm going to call it hotspot, just because that's a simple thing to find. Now, repeater call sign. If you're running a Zoom spot, this would be fairly easy to find. In fact, I can very quickly show you, because I can navigate to my my Pi-Star very easily. Because I was playing with some DMR stuff as well, but I've put it back into D-Star mode. I'm going to sign in to my thing, and under the settings for D-Star, you can see it's M0JSX, that's my own call sign, and at the end it's a B. So what I'm going to do in the software is I'm going to type in M0JSX. Now I need to make sure that B for Bravo, is in the very last character field, and again, because of the way that D-Star works, that is really important. So I'm going to make sure I'm at the last, and then scroll back one and put the B in. Now you'll see that it auto-infills the M0JSX-G, and that's the gateway. So if we go back to that Pi-Star configuration, we'll see that repeater 2 call sign M0JSX-G, and that you can't change that. That is how it is. So then we're going to go back here, and we're going to give it a frequency. Now, my hotspot is set to operate on the frequency that's recommended by the RSGB, which is 438.800. Now it's going to say here, duplex. We want that to be duplex, and we're going to leave that as duplex minus. It doesn't matter whether you set that to duplex minus or duplex plus, as we're going to set the offset frequency to 0. Now, if you wanted to, you can go through and put a latitude and longitude in if you really wanted to. It's not necessary. You don't have to. The radio will work, and you'll be able to access this without doing that. If you wanted to, you could put your coordinates in there, and therefore, if your hotspot lives at home and you don't move it anywhere at all, and you want to use the near repeater functionality by putting in your lat and long, the radio will do that near repeater functionality. But that's not the main reason we're doing this. So once we've done that, we're going to simply click on File and Save. So I'm going to save that back to where I've stored that file. And the next thing to do is to load that into the radio. So I'm going to load that onto an SD card. I'm going to pop the SD card in the radio, and we're going to go from there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to load that file into the radio. So again, I'm doing this on a 705, but the process is the same as whether you've got an IC-700 or an ID51 or 7100 or 5100. It's the similar process. So what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to hit the menu button. We're going to go to Set. We're going to scroll down to SD card. We're going to go to Load Setting. We're going to go to the one that I've done today. So that's that one there. I'm going to go All, Yes, and Yes. So then it's going to scan the file. It's going to load the file into the radio. There we go. And once it's done, we just need to restart the radio. So press and hold the power button to turn it off. And we're going to press and hold it to turn it back on again. And you'll see it come up. Icom IC-705. Perfect. That is all loaded up. Now, what that will do is that will unfortunately remove your call sign from here. So I'm just going to put my call sign back into it. So if you didn't see what I did there, I hit the menu button. I hit Set, My Station, My Call Sign, press and hold that, and I'm just gonna pop my call sign in there very quickly. And again, this is important to do, and make sure your call sign is in the radio, as otherwise the radio won't. Your hotspot may ignore you if you've got your hotspot set to only activate your call sign. You won't get any commands through. The furthermore than that is that if you haven't got your call sign set on there, the network is going to ignore you as well. So I've put in there, I've put my call sign, and then after the slash, you get 4 characters that you can populate. So I tend to just put the radio that I'm using. So in this case, I've put 705. If I was using my ID51, I might put ID51. If I was on 9700, I'd probably put 9700, etc. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to come back out. Right, this is where the magic now happens. So if you've never used the DR mode on an Icom radio, this is where all that digital stuff that we've just done in the software, that's where it resides. So this call button on the left-hand side, just left of the screen, above it is the DR. So if we press and hold that call button, this now takes us into the DR mode. Now, what we can do from here is we can tap on this from field, and it brings up this. So it's asking us where we want to go. So if we wanted to, we could go near repeater. We could list all the nearest repeaters, and it's bringing up my nearest repeaters. So that's for me, where I am in Reading, the nearest repeater, obviously, one of the Reading repeaters, GB3RU. And that's an FM repeater, but you can also filter that by digital voice, and the nearest one to me would be Amersham, or you can do it just FM. So that's a nice handy feature. And that's where I said earlier on, is if you wanted to put a latitude and longitude for your hotspot, if your hotspot only stays at home, then that would be a really handy thing to do. What we're actually going to do now, though, is we're going to go into repeater list. So that's that top one there. And this looks very familiar from that list that we saw on the programming software. So we're going to scroll down, and we know that hotspot is number 8. And then we've got hotspot there, and we've got my call sign, M0JSXB. Remember when we did that in the software as well? So we've got hotspot, M0JSXB. So we're going to tap on that, and that's how we get there. So that's now looking very good. We can see CQ, CQ, CQ on the top line. The next thing to do is to send a command to the hotspot to say that we want to connect to something. Now, most of the time, the most activity is on either reflector 1 Charlie or reflector 30 Charlie. And those are the two most popular reflectors. So in this case, let's connect to 1 Charlie. So we're going to tap in the to field to highlight it, and we're going to tap in it again to go into that submenu. Then we're going to click on the bottom where it says reflector, and we're going to say link to reflector. Now, because we've only just loaded the file in, there's nothing stored there. So we're going to go direct input, or we're going to leave it as REF. That's fine. We're going to up that to 1 and that one to Charlie. And that L at the end tells the system to link. So there we go. So we can see on the top line it's link to reflector. It says REF 001CL. And on the bottom it's the hotspot information, 438.8 minus DEP as we set in the software, and M0JSXB. The next thing to do is to grab the microphone very gingerly, not trying to knock over the camera. And I'm going to very simply key up. Just for a brief second. And what that does... So that tells the system that I want to connect to reflector 1 Charlie. And we hear it came back, says linked to reflector 1 Charlie. Then to actually use the reflector, well, we can go back into there, go to reflector, and go use reflector. Alternatively, we can use the multi-knob just on the right-hand side on the 705, just to scroll through those options. So there's a few bits there. So again, we've linked to 1 Charlie, but there's not a lot happening there. Let's see if there's something on 30 Charlie. So I don't want the clock. Go link to reflector. We'll go direct input again. We're going to up that to 30. We can just press and hold that to get all the way up to 30. 30 Charlie set. There we go. We've got about there. Going to give it a brief blip up on there. And there we go. There is immediately activity on 30 Charlie. So and you can also see information. So we can see this guy's called Keith and he's in Grandview, Montana. So that's nice. And what's nice is that as we get call signs come up, we can see it. And also, if we tap on that, we can see how far away they are from me. So that's a really handy little feature. And you can see he's also using a THD74 from Kenwood. And that's the overview of D-Star on the 705. It's important to know that if you don't set that duplex option up within the software, the radio is not going to send the commands correctly in order to either A, get through the network, or B, it's not going to do those links quite right either. So you need to make sure you set that. Even if you're doing it in the VFO, you do need to set up it as a duplex, but with the shift being 0. I say this also applies to the ID51 handheld, the ID5100 mobile, and also the IC-70100 and the IC-9700 too. If you're running an old D-Star radio, things like the IC-2820 or the ICE92 or the older handhelds as well, you can take elements of what I've said here, particularly that bit about the duplex, but the software for those obviously isn't as featureful as what we get here on the 705. I hope that helps. I hope that really does. It leads you on the path to be able to use your 705 on D-Star. D-Star is a fantastic mode because it's obviously all relying on the internet, and provided that your nearest repeater or node or your own hotspot has internet connectivity, you can track all over the world without having to rely on 20 meters holding out. But there we go. For now, that's it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.